you?
Our program today has to do with domestic violence. Valentine's Day is not only the time for love, but it is also the #1 time for the highest number of domestic violence calls that are received. So one of our required services is domestic violence. We've got some pretty powerful videos, and we've got a group exercise afterwards. So I hope you guys enjoy. Hold on.
I'm here today to talk about a disturbing question, which has an equally disturbing answer. My topic is the secrets of domestic violence. And the question I'm going to tackle is the one question everyone always asks. Why does she stay? Why would anyone stay with a man who beats her? I'm not a psychiatrist, a social worker, or an expert in domestic violence. I'm just one woman with a story to tell. I was 22. I had just graduated from Harvard College. I'd moved to New York City for my first job as a writer and editor at 17 magazine. I had my first apartment, my first little green American Express card, and I had a very big secret. My secret was that I had this gun, loaded with hollow point bullets, pointed at my head by the man who I thought was my soulmate, many, many times. The man who I loved more than anybody on earth held a gun to my head and threatened to kill me more times than I can even remember. I'm here to tell you the story of crazy love, a psychological trap disguised as love.
Okay.
One that millions of women and even a few men fall into every year. It may even be your story. I don't look like a typical domestic violence survivor. I have a BA in English from Harvard College, an MBA in marketing from Wharton Business School. I spent most of my career working for Fortune 500 companies. Fortune 500 companies, including Johnson & Johnson, Leo Burnett, and the Washington Post. I've been married for almost 20 years to my second husband, and we have 3 kids together. My dog is a black lab, and I drive a Honda Odyssey minivan. So my first message for you is that domestic violence happens to everyone. All races, all religions, all income and education levels. It's everywhere. And my second message is that everyone thinks domestic violence happens to women, that it's a women's issue. Not exactly. Over 85% of abusers are men. And domestic abuse happens only in intimate, interdependent, long-term relationships. In other words, in families. The last place we would want or expect to find violence, which is one reason domestic abuse is so confusing. I would have told you myself that I was the last person on earth who would stay with a man who beats me. But in fact, I was a very typical victim because of my age. I was 22. And in the United States, women ages 16 to 24 are 3 times as likely to be domestic violence victims as women of other ages. And over 500 women and girls this age are killed every year by abusive partners, boyfriends and husbands in the United States. I was also a very typical victim because I knew nothing about domestic violence, its warning signs or its patterns. I met Connor on a cold, rainy January night. He sat next to me on the New York City subway, and he started chatting me up. He told me 2 things. One was that he too had just graduated from an Ivy League school, and that he worked at a very impressive Wall Street bank. But what made the biggest impression on me that first meeting was that he was smart and funny. And he looked like a farm boy. He had these big cheeks, these big apple cheeks, and this wheat blonde hair, and he seemed so sweet. One of the smartest things Connor did from the very beginning was to create the illusion that I was the dominant partner in the relationship. He did this, especially at the beginning, by idolizing me. We started dating, and he loved everything about me. That I was smart, that I'd gone to Harvard, that I was passionate about helping teenage girls and my job. He wanted to know everything about my family and my childhood, my hopes and dreams. Connor believed in me as a writer and a woman in a way that no one else ever had. And he also created a magical atmosphere of trust between us by confessing his secret, which was that as a very young boy, starting at age 4, he had been savagely and repeatedly physically abused by his stepfather. And the abuse had gotten so bad that he had to drop out of school in 8th grade, even though he was very smart. And he'd spent almost 20 years rebuilding his life, which is why that Ivy League degree and the Wall Street job and his bright, shiny future meant so much to him. If you had told me that this smart, funny, sensitive man who adored me would one day dictate whether or not I wore makeup, how short my skirts were, where I lived, what jobs I took, who my friends were, and where I spent Christmas, I would have laughed at you. Because there was not a hint of violence or control or anger in Connor at the beginning. I didn't know that the first stage in any domestic violence relationship is to seduce and charm the victim. I also didn't know that the second step is to isolate the victim. Now, Connor did not come home one day and announce, you know, hey, all this Romeo and Juliet stuff has been great, but I need to move into the next phase where I isolate you and I abuse you. So I need to get you out of this apartment where the neighbors can hear you scream, and out of this city where you have friends and family and coworkers who can see the bruises. Instead, Connor came home one Friday evening, and he told me that he had quit his job that day, his dream job. And he said that he had quit his job because of me, because I had made him feel so safe and loved that he didn't need to prove himself on Wall Street anymore. And he just wanted to get out of the city and away from his abusive, dysfunctional family and move to a tiny town in New England where he could start his life over with me by his side. Now, the last thing I wanted to do was leave New York and my dream job. But I thought you made sacrifices for your soulmate. So I agreed, and I quit my job, and Connor and I left Manhattan together. I had no idea I was falling into crazy love, that I was walking headfirst into a carefully laid physical, financial, and psychological trap. The next step in the domestic violence pattern is to introduce the threat of violence and see how she reacts. And here's where those guns come in. As soon as we moved to New England, you know that place where Connor was supposed to feel so safe? He bought 3 guns. He kept one in the glove compartment of our car. He kept one under the pillows on our bed. And the third one he kept in his pocket at all times. And he said that he needed those guns because of the trauma he'd experienced as a young boy. He needed them to feel protected. But those guns were really a message for me. And even though he hadn't raised a hand to me, my life was already in grave danger every minute of every day. Connor first physically attacked me 5 days before our wedding. It was 7 a.m. I still had on my nightgown. I was working on my computer trying to finish a freelance writing assignment, and I got frustrated. And Connor used my anger as an excuse to put both of his hands around my neck and to squeeze so tightly that I could not breathe or scream. And he used the chokehold to hit my head repeatedly against the wall. 5 days later, the 10 bruises on my neck had just faded, and I put on my mother's wedding dress, and I married him. Despite what had happened, I was sure we were going to live happily ever after, because I loved him, and he loved me so much. And he was very, very sorry. He had just been really stressed out by the wedding and by becoming a family with me. It was an isolated incident and he was never going to hurt me again. It happened twice more on the honeymoon. The first time, I was driving to find a secret beach, and I got lost. And he punched me in the side of my head so hard that the other side of my head repeatedly hit the driver's side window. And then a few days later, driving home from our honeymoon, he got frustrated by traffic, and he threw a cold Big Mac in my face. Connor proceeded to beat me once or twice a week for the next 2.5 years of our marriage. I was mistaken in thinking that I was unique and alone in this situation. 1 in 3 American women experiences domestic violence or stalking at some point in her life. And the CDC reports that 15 million children are abused every year. 15 million. So actually, I was in very good company. Back to my question. Why did I stay? The answer is easy. I didn't know he was abusing me. Even though he held those loaded guns to my head, pushed me downstairs, threatened to kill our dog, pulled the key out of the car ignition as I drove down the highway, poured coffee grinds on my head as I dressed for a job interview. I never once thought of myself as a battered wife. Instead, I was a very strong woman in love with a deeply troubled man, and I was the only person on earth who could help Connor face his demons. The other question everybody asks is, why doesn't she just leave? Why didn't I walk out? I could have left any time. To me, this is the saddest and most painful question that people ask, because we victims know something you usually don't. It's incredibly dangerous to leave an abuser, because the final step in the domestic violence pattern is kill her. Over 70% of domestic violence murders happen after the victim has ended the relationship, after she's gotten out, because then the abuser has nothing left to lose. Other outcomes include long-term stalking, even after the abuser remarries, denial of financial resources, and manipulation of the family court system to terrify the victim and her children, who are regularly forced by family court judges to spend unsupervised time with the man who beat their mother. And still we ask, why doesn't she just leave? I was able to leave because of one final sadistic beating that broke through my denial. I realized that the man who I loved so much was going to kill me if I let him. So I broke the silence. I told everyone. The police, my neighbors, my friends and family, total strangers. And I'm here today because you all helped me. We tend to stereotype victims as grisly headlines, self-destructive women, damaged goods. The question, why does she stay, is code for some people for it's her fault for staying. As if victims intentionally choose to fall in love with men intent upon destroying us. But since publishing Crazy Love, I have heard hundreds of stories from men and women who also got out, who learned an invaluable life lesson from what happened, and who rebuilt lives, joyous, happy lives, as employees, wives, and mothers, lives completely free of violence. Like me. Because it turns out that I'm actually a very typical domestic violence victim and a typical domestic violence survivor. I remarried a kind and gentle man. We have those 3 kids. I have that black lab, and I have that minivan. What I will never have again, ever, is a loaded gun held to my head by someone who says that he loves me. Now right now, maybe you're thinking, wow, this is fascinating. Or wow, how stupid was she? But this whole time, I've actually been talking about you. I promise you, there are several people listening to me right now who are currently being abused, or who were abused as children, or who are abusers themselves. Abuse could be affecting your daughter, your sister, your best friend right now. I was able to end my own crazy love story by breaking the silence. I'm still breaking the silence today. It's my way of helping other victims. And it's my final request of you. Talk about what you heard here. Abuse thrives only in silence. You have the power to end domestic violence simply by shining a spotlight on it. We victims need everyone. We need every one of you to understand the secrets of domestic violence. Show abuse the light of day by talking about it with your children, your coworkers, your friends and family. Recast survivors as wonderful, lovable people with full futures. Recognize the early signs of violence and conscientiously intervene, de-escalate it, show victims a safe way out. Together, we can make our beds, our dinner tables, and our families the safe and peaceful oases they should be. Thank you.
All right, so that's something we should all talk about, think about, right? This is a society problem. It's not just a women's problem, and it's not just a man's problem. It's all of our issues. And like I said, Valentine's Day is the height of domestic violence complaints. The height of it. And I know all of you know somebody. I see a lot of teary up eyes in here in the room right now. So I know a lot of you, this hits close to your heart. There's things that happen at home, and there's things that happen that you know people. I pass out the papers and the pamphlets, and it gives some ideas. If we need more copies, we'll make more copies of it, of what to do and how to help. If you yourself are affected by the situation, or if you know somebody who's in that situation, some ideas on what you can do. There's also the domestic violence hotline, the domestic violence abuse hotline. It's listed in the paper. I'd like to change gears right now. I'd like for all of you to close your eyes and think of the best minute of your life, the best moments that you've had, the best moments of your life. And now I want you to open your eyes, think about this best moment. You got it? You got it there? All right, now talk to somebody you don't know. Introduce yourself and talk to them about the best moments of your life. I want you to share, okay? All right, what's your name?
Best moment of my life was having my baby, and she means the world to me. She's 3, she just turned 3 last month. It's the best thing I ever did.
That's good. That's good. What about you?
My baby, he woke me up a lot. He actually taught me how to be mature, even though he went back to a 1-year-old to teach somebody how to be mature, but he did. He grew me up a lot.
Man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, my best moments was when my kids moved out of my house.
Oh, really? So do you let them come stay in your house?
Yeah, but they can't stay long. They gotta go.
Listen, I was just telling her, I was like, I'm so glad, like, even though I stay by myself, I could just go stay the night with my mama sometimes. I don't want to go home.
That's it. Just stay the night, stay up a day or two. Bye, see you. You gotta go.
You don't miss them?
I talk to them and whatnot. FaceTime.
Miss them being home with you?
At first, yeah. When the first one moved out, it was kind of sad. Second one moved out, it got a little easier. By the time the third one moved out, yes. When the fourth one, woo! Party! So much freedom. So yeah, that's like the best moment right now. So, even though y'all, had great moments birthing kids, which is incredible, phenomenal. Boy, just think all the years you rear them up and, you teach them right. And
I'm already ready for my baby to graduate high school.
when they graduate and go off to college, and then got 3 that's finished college. You know, it's just great.
You know, and it's something that year I'm but I'm just kidding.
Is it on? Is it on? Is it on? Yeah, fixed it, though.
Bang on the candy bowl.
Bang on the candy bowl. Okay. All right. Well, the candy is here to bribe you, all right? So who wants to share one of their best moments? Who wants to share?
I will just one. We both agreed that our children just sometimes did the first time.
Oh, that's sweet.
It was just like
I'll share it. I don't think it's easy though. I know a lot of people are saying like when they got married when they had kids, but I think for me, it's really memorable, powerful moment.
All right. And when she got saved, gave her life to Christ.
How about this side of the room?
Me?
Yes, sir.
My best moments is when my kids all moved out the house, went to college, and now they're living on their own. Yes. Yes.
All right. This side of the room. Oh. Greg wants some candy?
No, you can get mine too.
Yes, Brent. Oh, man.
All right.
We bought a horse. All right. Anybody else?
The expensive glass I met 15 years ago. How expensive they
Let's
were.
change gears again. Let's close your eyes again.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was 15, so
So now we're going to
75,
think
65 years ago. 60 years
Close
ago.
your eyes again. I hear you over there, Gloria. Where are you? I can hear you, but I can't see you. So close your eyes. You're going to think about this time. The 30 seconds that you would most like to do it over again. What would you like to do? The 30 seconds that you would like to change. If you could go back and change that 30 seconds in your life, what would you do? And share it with your partner. Okay?
All right.
All right. Go ahead.
There we go. 30
Get
seconds.
a little more personal.
no, I don't want to say that.
Go ahead. Okay, what 30 seconds you like to change?
I would like to change me not going to play basketball.
You're good at you play basketball? You're good at it? Wow.
I would like to change.
Yeah, that's good. And what about
That's
you?
what I was going to say. I was going to say that. I wish I would have waited to have my baby so I could wait to surgery.
Well,
But she healed, so, you know.
so 30 seconds that I would like to change is... Don't know.
With your life. So this isn't nearly as it's kind of like the domestic violence victim.
So, Dave?
It's not something fun to talk about. We want to be there. We want to be supportive. For anybody who needs our help. Would anybody like to share that moment? Gloria? Where am I saying? Where is she back there? Well, I'm saying hi to anybody else? I found her. Okay. It's you.
911, operator 901, where's the emergency?
127 Bremer.
Okay, what's going on there?
I went to order a pizza for delivery.
probably talking in code. Because I do the same thing. Talking in code.
And you reached 911. This is an emergency line.
Large with half pepperoni, half mushroom.
You know you've called 911. This is an emergency line.
How long it'll be?
Okay, ma'am, is everything okay over there? Do you have an emergency or not?
Yes.
It's like 911.
I need to be a dispatcher. Answer calls like that.
Wait a minute, get in the cab.
He's so slow.
Yeah, tomorrow, MMD will be here to fix our internet.
Are you unable to talk because...
Right.
Is there someone in the room with you? Just say yes or no.
No.
Okay, it looks like I have an officer about a mile from your location. Are there any weapons in your house?
No.
Can you stay on the phone with me?
No. See you soon. Thank you.
You stay on the phone.
Okay, I need everybody to sign the sign-in sheet. This is one of your required in-services. So make sure that you sign the sign-in sheet. And please reach out to somebody who might need help, or if you need help, reach out. We're here for you.